44,000 lives to traffic incidents in 2023. That's more than 100 people every single day. As president of the council, I lead what's called the Road to Zero Coalition, and it's a group of more than 2,000 members dedicated to achieving zero roadway deaths. The coalition operates on the fundamental principle that there are technologies, strategies, and policies to achieve this goal and eliminate traffic deaths. And they already exist. We simply have to fully use them. We're gathered here today with members of Congress and people personally impacted by the crisis on our roadways, all of whom have dedicated themselves to advocating for roadway safety and put forth policy solutions to help us achieve zero roadway deaths. So now let me introduce our first speaker. It's Representative Rick Larsen, the ranking member of the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Representative?
Thank you, Lorraine, for the introduction, and thank you all here for being here this morning to highlight the need for investment in safety on our roadways. Your advocacy for safer roads, for safer streets to protect pedestrians, drivers, bicyclists, everybody is well appreciated. And I want to take a moment to honor those whose lives have been cut short or forever altered as a result of traffic crashes. Many of you here today have either lost loved ones in this tragic and preventable way, or are victims yourself and now have become advocates. The loss of one life is too many, as families here today can attest. That 44,450 people who died from traffic crashes in the U.S. in 2023 is nothing short of a public safety epidemic. To put that in perspective, 44,450 people is more than the capacity at Nationals Park and nearly the capacity of T-Mobile Park in Seattle. As ranking member of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, I'm committed to improving transportation safety across all modes. In fact, later today, the House is poised to pass the FAA Reauthorization Act of 2024 and send it to the President's desk. This bill will maintain America's gold standard in aviation safety. And now we have to build on the success of the FAA bill and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law to make the nation's transportation system safer for all users. Across transportation, the BIL strengthens safety. It targets safety funding to the most dangerous roads and intersections and invests in tailored solutions to address unique risks that drivers, pedestrians, and cyclists face on our roads. The BIL also dedicates funding to remove dangerous railroad crossings on busy roads and repair aging rail and transit infrastructure to generate safety and societal benefits to communities across the country. One example, the BIL established the Safe Streets and Roads for All grants, which invests $5 billion over 5 years to help our communities prevent roadway deaths and serious injuries. And to date, more than 1,000 communities nationwide have benefited from this critical initiative. The need for this initiative is urgent, and it is long overdue. In my home state of Washington, 810 people were killed in crashes involving a motor vehicle last year, a 33-year high. Just last week, a pedestrian and baby in a stroller were struck by a car in Linwood, Washington, a town in my district. To combat this, more than $4.2 million in BIL grants have been awarded to communities in my district to invest in projects that will help them develop comprehensive safety action plans in places like Edmonds and Anacortes, in Snohomish County and Skagit County, and on the Lummi Reservation for the Lummi Nation. I look forward to the continued partnership with local communities, with stakeholders, with tribal governments to identify and invest in projects that keep people and the economy moving while improving safety outcomes and accessibility for everyone. As you'll hear today from my colleagues on the Hill and firsthand from family members, more must be done. We have to continually renew the commitment to roadway safety. Thank you for your advocacy to ensure the investment in our human infrastructure is a critical focus of this Infrastructure Week. All right.
And next we will have Chris Pappas from New Hampshire.
Well, thanks very much, Lorraine, and the National Safety Council for convening us here today, and to all of the advocates that are part of this event. We couldn't do this work without each and every one of you here. And I want to thank my colleagues from the Transportation Infrastructure Committee for their determined work to address the crisis with respect to road safety in this country. As was mentioned, 44,000 deaths on our roadways in 2023. One is too many. 44,000 is a national crisis and should cause all members of Congress to act with great speed to work in a bipartisan fashion to address this. In my home state of New Hampshire, we've seen an increase, like many states have, from 2019 through 2022, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, in the number of fatalities on our roadways. A number of factors contributed to that, including less time spent behind the wheel during COVID-19. But thanks to some great efforts at the local, state, and federal level, we did see a decrease in 2022 of 16%, and we hope we can continue to work to make that decrease more trend over time. Something that's contributed to the ability of states to make progress is the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, which is putting safety first and is investing in the kind of upgrades and improvements that are going to make our roadways safer and save lives. We've also seen billions of dollars in funding go to programs like the Safe Streets and Roads for All program, which helps support safety-oriented traffic planning, which is critical, something I heard from my communities about a great deal. And we've got to continue to push the administration to make sure they unlock all the funding that's contained within the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and to ensure that this funding truly is getting down to the state and community level in a swift and efficient fashion. We'd also know that in too many cases, the cause of traffic fatalities is related to alcohol and impaired driving. According to NHTSA, over 30% of all traffic-related deaths are related to impaired driving. And so that's why earlier this year, I introduced a bipartisan bill called the End Driving While Intoxicated Act. It would prevent repeat DWI offenses by creating a national standard in terms of ignition interlock devices that would be installed in cars. It's something we've done and adopted at the state level in New Hampshire. It's made a difference and saved lives. Other states have taken this step, and it's about time we have a national standard with respect to these ignition interlock devices in cars. So this is really an all-hands-on-deck moment with respect to roadway safety. You hear a lot of statistics, but really this is about the people and families that are impacted behind those statistics. And I'm just grateful for all the advocates that are out here turning your pain into positive action. Congress isn't just going to find the right solutions alone. We do it because of your voices and because of your advocacy. So we're grateful for all that you do for this important cause, and we want to work with you every step of the way. With that, I'll turn it over to Tiffany May, who's a survivor of a deadly crash, who wants to speak a little bit about her experiences. Tiffany. Come on through.
See if I can set that here. Thank you. Hello, my name is Tiffany May. I'm the survivor of Nevada's worst crash to date that took place on January 29, 2022. A driver who was a repeat offender, speeding offender, was also under the influence of multi-substances who sped through a red light at 103 miles per hour, critically injuring me, my dog, and killing 9 people. The 9 people were himself, his passenger, a family of 7, and 4 of them were children, the youngest being 5 years old. From my understanding, the children were ejected from the vehicle, and I was the only person in the entire crash involved who was wearing a seatbelt. It is also from my understanding that the driver had just pled guilty to speeding just a few days before the crash happened. After 2 years of recovery, I'm still learning my new body and navigating the various accessibility issues that people with disabilities face. But what's for sure is my life and my family's life will never be the same. But that also applies to everyone who's involved, including the driver, the parents who lost all of their children, and even my 12-year-old son who still worries about me, whether or not I'm going to come home. The NTSB board investigated this crash and holds Nevada responsible for all of the deficiencies in the systems that allowed this to happen. And I concur with those statements of the NTSB that they made during that statement. I encourage you to please go and listen to what they had to say, because these statements don't only hold true in Nevada, but across our nation. That's why I'm here in DC, speaking with Congress, united in grief with all of those here. advocating for intentional and proactive investments into transportation safety and investments that can deter the deficiencies in our systems. The investments need to go both top down and bottom up so that we can reevaluate the way that we view traffic safety culture. We need to adopt a culture that ensures that all of our loved ones make it to their destinations without the possibility of death or altered life. Including a society that reduces recidivism. Regardless of someone's origin, method of travel, nothing on our roadways separates us. So these are our people, and they're our responsibility to keep one another safe. With that being said, I thank you for having me, and I would like to introduce Representative Moulton. Thank you.
What an honor it is to be here with so many victims of unthinkable tragedy who have turned anguish into action. Thank you for all that you're doing. I want to take everyone back to a small town in my district, Andover, Massachusetts, on May 9th, 2023, almost exactly a year ago. A beautiful 5-year-old girl, Sydney Olsen, was waiting for a walk sign to cross the street. When the walk light changed and she got the signal, she started to cross. And a big semi-truck, which couldn't see her, started forward and hit her. It knocked her down, but she got up and tried to get out of the way. But then that truck jerked forward again and ran her over, ending her life in an instant before her entire family. It's an unimaginable moment in any parent's life. The accident devastated her family, her brother, her mom, her dad. It devastated the truck driver, who didn't even know what had happened until after it had happened. This entire accident could have been prevented with a $50 mirror. A $50 mirror installed on that truck so that the driver could see what was in front of him. The same mirrors that are installed on school buses all across the country. Like the families up here with me today, Sydney's family has turned this unthinkable tragedy into an opportunity to make our communities safer through their organization, Sydney's Rainbows. There are plenty of changes that we can make, big and small, that will save countless lives. Back in Andover, we want common sense traffic changes to that crosswalk where Sydney lost her life, like improved awareness, enforcement of speed limits, and changing the set-off distance from the crosswalk. But a few basic changes would greatly improve safety for all road users in America. Let's start with shifting the paradigm. Start designing roads for everyone, for pedestrians, bicyclists, and other non-motorized transportation, instead of only designing roads to make our cars go as fast as they can go. Let's increase the usage of red light and stop sign cameras to curb bad driving behavior. Such devices are illegal in many states, including the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Let's push NHTSA to consider vehicle safety for all those outside of cars as well as those inside of cars, instead of only considering the occupants of vehicles. Our current system leads to an arms race for the largest, most dangerous vehicles possible on our roadways. Let's promote a vision for holistic, dense, walkable communities with abundant, affordable housing. Let's talk about what Europe is doing in mode shift to get people out of cars with the freedom to choose better alternatives to get around. It's not even a topic of conversation with our Department of Transportation. And it's the prime effort in Europe. 120 Americans a day die in traffic accidents. Imagine if 120 Americans died in airline accidents every single day. We would say that's unacceptable. We'd invest billions of dollars of subsidies in trying to stop it. This is a national tragedy, and we do have to take action. We shouldn't have 5-year-old kids anywhere in America crossing a street when they get a walk sign and ending their lives. I'm now proud to introduce Jennifer Smith, who is the president and CEO of StopDistractions.org. Her mother died at the hands of a distracted driver.
I want to thank the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee and all the members present here with us today. I also want to thank the National Safety Council and the Road to Zero for the support of the families over the years. They have been our steadfast partners to accomplish what we have. Especially, I want to thank the organizations that made this possible for these families to be here. It could be me, American Property Casualty Insurers Association, and the Kiefer Foundation for their generous support to get them to DC to make their voices heard. Most importantly, I do have to thank my daughters, Nevaeh and Imani, because they lost the most when the tragedy struck our family. On September 3rd of 2008, my mother was leaving her neighborhood, as she did every day, in her car. A 20-year-old driver who was talking on his cell phone ran the red light and T-boned her car at about 45 to 50 miles per hour. I was lucky. He admitted he was on the phone. He had the remorse and he helped me. Too many people are on their phones when driving and not thinking of the consequences. I knew I wasn't alone, so I began StopDistractions.org to work with other families like myself. I needed the support to make our voices heard. We knew we could make a difference. This week, we united over 100 families from almost all 50 states who have been impacted by all types of crashes to join together in one collective voice, demanding action from policymakers, from the DOT, from NHTSA, from the whole of government, to raise awareness about the critical need for safer roads and to make road safety a national priority. In our meetings, we realized we all have a story. We all know someone we love that has been impacted by a traffic crash. It's time we change this. It should not be acceptable to lose over 40,000 lives yearly to traffic violence, and we know how to change that. We have the tools at our disposal. Distracted driving, drunk driving, speeding, unsafe driving behaviors, seatbelt non-use, bicyclists, pedestrians, trucks. We all have to come together to make sure we do not let these crashes happen anymore. We're leaving families shattered, lives destroyed, entire communities devastated when these losses happen. And despite the magnitude of the crisis, national attention and resources dedicated to road safety remain insufficient until now. We are investing in creating a safer future for all by amplifying the voices of these courageous families behind me. We will advocate for change. We will help you. We want to prevent this from anyone having to walk in our shoes. This event provided a platform for these families, and we will continue to help you enact more comprehensive laws, increase funding for further safety initiatives and technologies, and find better, more real-time data for us to use to combat these problems. By doing this, you will help us honor the memories of our loved ones. Your support honors their sacrifice and ensures that their deaths were not in vain. By doing this, we will build a safer future for the generations to come, ultimately by saving lives and preventing future tragedies like ours. Because it's no longer a matter of if this is going to happen to someone you love, but when. Thank you. And now I would like to represent Representative Sykes.
Good afternoon, or good morning, everyone, and thank you to all who are with us for sharing your stories. My name is Amelia Sykes, and I proudly represent Ohio's 13th Congressional District in Northeast Ohio. And again, I want to thank everyone for being with us and sharing some unspeakable tragedies in order for us to act. Your strength and your advocacy are deeply appreciated, and we're grateful for you every single day. This is the very first step in ensuring that dangerous accidents don't continue to happen and families do not have to suffer continuously. I'm also glad to join my colleagues, Ranking Member Larsen and Reps. Pappas, Moulton, and Cohen, as we discuss how we can make our roads safer and reduce traffic fatalities. When I came to Congress, I wanted to be a member of the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee because Ohio is a significant transportation hub across the country. We have one of the most extensive and heavily traveled roadway systems in the nation, with over 8,000 miles of total road lanes. Ohio ranks 6th largest in total vehicle miles traveled. And in a state that is so well connected and extensively traveled as Ohio, it's vital that we make sure everyone can get where they need to go efficiently and, most importantly, safely. That's why I teamed up with my friend and colleague, Congressman Mike Carey from Columbus, to introduce the Save Our Pedestrians Act earlier this year. This bipartisan bill, Save Our Pedestrian Act, requires states to set aside federal dollars to improve crosswalks, roundabouts, and sidewalks at high-risk pedestrian crosses in our communities. Investing in this pedestrian infrastructure will make our roads safer for everyone, including pedestrians and motorists. But most importantly, the Save Our Pedestrians Act will save lives. The number of pedestrian deaths have continued to increase over the last few years. In 2022 alone, 7,522 pedestrians died, and more than 67,000 pedestrians were injured nationwide by vehicles. The Save Our Pedestrians Act will help reduce these fatalities and accidents, ensuring everyone can move freely throughout our neighborhoods and get home to their families safer. When I was a member of the state legislature, I'll never forget a statement from our public safety director, and he reminded us that if something is predictable, it is preventable. Traffic deaths are predictable and therefore preventable. But we have to act in order to make sure that we are preventing these unnecessary injuries and deaths, and that is why I'm so proud to join forces with my colleagues and all of these advocates here today. So I urge the House majority to immediately act to prevent these very predictable injuries and deaths by passing common sense solutions like the Save Our Pedestrians Act, a bipartisan, common sense piece of legislation. We simply cannot afford to wait any longer because lives are at stake. And I don't see Representative Cohen, so Lorraine is going to take the program back over. Thank you, Lorraine.
Well, thank you to all our advocates and our policymakers for all your thoughtful words today. You truly are taking action so that people can be safer on our roads. Today, the National Safety Council is going to be releasing, and I see we have some members of the press here, a new survey, which reveals that it's not just roadway organizations and advocates who agree with these policies and the ideas that you've heard here today. The public does too. We conducted a survey by the Texas A&M University through one of the grants of our Road to Zero program, and it looked at how people view these issues. And the people mostly agree with all of the recommendations you're hearing today, and very specifically about the core of what's called a safe system approach, including the idea that no one should be seriously injured or killed on our roadways, and that people do make mistakes, and our roadways and our systems have to be developed such that when those mistakes are made, no one loses their life or gets injured. Perhaps the most revealing piece of our survey, though, showed that 75% of our participants expressed concern about their safety and the safety of their friends and family when they're on our roads. 75% of our population. When 3/4 of our citizens fear that their safety is at risk when they move about our country, or worry that walking or biking or any other mode of transportation could result in a tragedy, we can no longer afford to ignore this issue. We commend the adoption of the National Roadway Safety Strategy by the U.S. Department of Transportation. It's the first one our nation has had, and it does adopt the safe system approach, and it adopts a goal of 0 fatalities. It's an important step forward, and as we heard here today, the Bipartisan Act also has significant resources to make that strategy come to life. And we're here at Capitol Hill today to ask our legislators, partner with them as well on some of the policy items you heard here today to make sure that we have safe laws and safe streets for everyone, and to end this public crisis. Thank you for being with us here today. I think we're going to go and have questions and answers now from our press that's with us here today, and thank you for joining us here, and it's over to you. Anything you've got for our speakers today? Yes, sir.
What would you like to see more from the private sector? The trucking industry, the freight rail industry,
Sure.
What can they do more to contribute to the safety culture?
You know, I think I'll take that unless not somebody else wants to take that one. The first thing that we can do is make sure that our fleet drivers, and we have 15 million drivers that are not included under the CDL program, get good training about how to drive a fleet vehicle. It's not like driving your personal car. And you really need to make sure that you have that very specific training to operate that vehicle successfully. And we can also ask those fleet owners to make sure the technology, and some of it you've heard about here, whether it's mirrors or sensors or automatic braking or some of the telematics that you can put in trucks, that they put it in their fleets. It saves lives not only for their drivers, but also for those that are on the roads around them. So it's technology, it's training, and it's making sure that they have the right kind of safety culture with their fleets, like we know workplaces do around all other kinds of safety-sensitive activities. Did I answer your question? Other questions from the press with us today? If not, we will close and just say thank you all for joining us. The rain held off. This is an amazing group of people behind me that I've gotten a chance to hear their stories throughout the last few days and the years. Thank you for everything that you're going to be doing, and for our legislators for being with us here today to make sure that we end this public crisis. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you all very much for coming to Washington. We're going to try to do something on this.
Sure, thank you.